All right, what a beautiful morning. Let's get into it. Share perplexity. And what are we talking about? We're talking about, Egypt. Let's see. Hmm. Officially known as the Arab Republic of Egypt, is a transcontinental country located in the northeastern corner of Africa and Sinai Peninsula. Sinai Peninsula, Eastern Desert. This is the flag. Suez Canal. Hmm. Nile River. Transcontinental country. All right. Okay. So a little bit of Egypt is in Asia, a little bit is in Africa, and most of it, majority of it is in Africa. Africa and Sinai Peninsula in the southwest corner of Asia. Here are some key facts. Location: northeast corner of Africa and Sinai Peninsula in Asia. Population: estimated population of over 107 million. Most populous country in the Arab world, and the third most populous in Africa. Ethnically homogeneous, with Egyptians comprising more than 99% of the population. Religious composition is approximately 90% Muslim and 10% Christian. Home to one of the world's earliest and greatest civilizations with a unified kingdom, first surfacing around 3200 BC. 3200 BC. It has a rich history of pharaonic dynasties, foreign rule, and significant contributions to human civilization, including the construction of the pyramids and the development of hieroglyphics. Egypt has experienced various periods of foreign rule, including by the Greeks, Romans, and Ottomans. Gained full independence from Great Britain in 52. Cultural landmarks like the Great Pyramids, the Sphinx, and the city of Alexandria attract millions of tourists annually. The Great Pyramids, the Sphinx, and the city of Alexandria. Hmm, this is actually crazy. Like watching this in person would be crazy. That this was built by humans, and this is massive, and this was done without the construction tools we know of today. Hmm. Place where one of the world's greatest civilization developed, the Nile River flooded regularly. Desert keeps Egypt almost isolated. 3200 BC saw the rise of a unified kingdom. Series of dynasties ruled Egypt for about 3,000 years. Located along the northern Nile, good farmland, access to copper mines. Located along the southern Nile, established first dynasty, conquered Lower Egypt, unifying the kingdom, built capital at Memphis. Hmm. Memphis is a good name. Okay. Egypt is a democratic republic, although there have been criticisms regarding the extent of its democracy. Economy heavily relies on agriculture, tourism, and remittances from Egyptians working abroad. Key economic sectors include manufacturing, trade, and services. GDP is projected to grow by 4% in the fiscal year 24-25, indicating a modest rebound from previous years. There have been reports of arbitrary detentions and human rights abuses related to protests and expressions of solidarity with Palestine. Egypt was certified as malaria free by World Health Organization in October 24, marking a significant public health achievement. Has played a central role in Middle Eastern politics, with historical figures like Nasser and Anwar Sadat influencing regional dynamics. Due to regional conflicts, travel advisories have been issued for certain areas of Egypt, particularly those near the borders with Israel and Gaza, making it a pivotal country in both African and Middle Eastern context. Despite facing economic challenges and political unrest, Egypt continues to be a significant player in regional politics. Wow. Okay. What are the major events? This would be really cool. What are the major events in the history of Egypt since its inception. Hmm, really cool. Spans over 5,000 years, marked by numerous significant events that have shaped its civilization, culture, and political landscape. Settlement of the Nile Valley. Right, so Nile Valley is the longest river. We can imagine that it had fertile land. Earlier humans or nomads who were just hunting, once they found, once they wanted to settle finally, they settled along the Nile River. Top 10 most important events. Timeline 3000, Old Kingdom for 500 years. First Intermediate Period for 100 years. Middle Kingdom. Second Intermediate 200. New Kingdom 500. Third Intermediate. Hmm. Don't worry, this is a long, long history we're talking about. We'll try to dig into a bit of it. 6000 BC, 3200 BC. The first pyramid is built 2630 BC, 2630. 6000 BC. The first permanent settlers dash. What is that? The first permanent settlers lived in the Nile Valley. Construction of the on the pyramids of Giza begins. Hmm. Ancient Egypt. Okay, let's see. Settlement of the Nile Valley, circa 7000 BC. Wow. Earliest known settlements in Egypt began along the Nile River, which provided fertile land for agriculture. Unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. Whoa, we skipped. Did they literally just skip 4,000 years? 4,000 years. Imagine how slow the world moved, how slow everything was. But it wouldn't be that slow. Hmm. King Manus, also known as Narmer. Narmer is traditionally credited with unifying Egypt, making marking the beginning of early dynastic period. Then 1,000 years later, no, not 1,000, 500 years later, construction of the pyramids. The Old Kingdom saw the construction of the Great Pyramids, including the Step Pyramid of Djoser and the pyramids of Giza, showcasing Egypt's architecture and engineering prowess. Invention of writing, 3250. Hieroglyphics, one of the earliest forms of writing, was developed, allowing for the recording of history, literature, and administrative records. End of the Old Kingdom, 2130. Political instability and corruption led to the decline of the Old Kingdom, marking the beginning of the first intermediate period. Interesting. So we got Old Kingdom, first intermediate period, Middle Kingdom, second intermediate period, New Kingdom, third intermediate period. It's interesting, like we humans, when we want to learn about the history, we kind of want to create a pattern because this is really complicated. Obviously, things are changing a lot every couple of years. But when you look from the top and look across history, there are only certain things that are relevant, certain major events that are relevant, which totally change the history of a country, of the world. So historically, they have always went for these massive spans. Like it's easier for them to just be like, okay, in these 500 years, this is exactly what happened. It's easier to find patterns. That is so cool. Like if we think about our lives today, every day things are changing, but every day is still like not that big of a change. But at least now every year things are massively changing. And here we are talking, we are putting together hundreds of years, and we are talking about them in just one or two sentences, which is crazy. But yeah, let's go ahead. Invention of writing. Hieroglyphics, one of the earliest form of writing, was developed allowing for the recording of history, literature, and administrative records. End of the Old Kingdom. Political instability and corruption led to the decline of the Old Kingdom, marking the beginning of the first intermediate period, Middle Kingdom, 1980 to 1630. This period saw Egypt's resurgence with significant cultural and architectural achievements, including the construction of Labyrinth at Hawara. Second Intermediate. Egypt faced invasions by the Hyksos, leading to a period of foreign rule and internal division. Egypt faced invasions by Hyksos. This picture is this is an art. This is an art. It's really cool how they developed this. It's aesthetic. Egypt faced invasions by the Hyksos, leading to a period of foreign rule and internal division. New Kingdom, 500 years. Known for its military expansion, the New Kingdom included the reigns of famous pharaohs like Hatshepsut, Thutmose III, and Ramesses II. The Battle of Kadesh, and the subsequent peace treaty with the Hittites are notable events. Hmm. The intermediate period. This period was marked by decline of central authority, with Egypt being ruled by various foreign dynasties, including the Nubians and Assyrians. And then 300 years later, late period, Egypt experienced Persian rule, followed by a brief period of independence under the Scythe kings before being conquered by Alexander the Great. Hmm. Egypt experienced Persian rule, followed by a brief period of independence under the Scythe kings before being conquered by Alexander the Great. Egypt experienced Persian rule. Hellenistic and Roman Egypt, conquest by Alexander the Great. Alexander's conquest. So interesting. Alexander's timeline is around 300 BC. Alexander's conquest marked the end of Persian rule and the beginning of the Hellenistic period in Egypt. Ptolemaic dynasty. Founded by Ptolemy I Soter, this dynasty saw the blending of Greek and Egyptian cultures. Hmm. Ptolemy I Soter. This dynasty saw the blending of Greek and Egyptian cultures, with Alexandria becoming a major center of learning. Alexander's conquest marked the end of Persian rule and beginning of the Hellenistic period. Roman conquest. After the death of Cleopatra VI, Egypt became a province of the Roman Empire, ending the Ptolemaic dynasty. Cleopatra VI. There were many Cleopatras. That means, wow. Islamic and medieval Egypt. Arab conquest was conquered by Arab forces, leading to the spread of Islam and the establishment of Cairo as a major city. Mamluk rule, 642 CE. conquered by Arab forces, leading to the spread of Islam and establishment of Cairo as a major city. Mamluk rule 1250 to 1517. The Mamluks, originally slave soldiers, the Mamluks, originally slave soldiers, established a dynasty known for its military prowess and architectural achievements. Ottoman rule 1517 to 1805. Egypt became part of the Ottoman Empire with periods of autonomy under local rulers like Muhammad Ali Pasha. French occupation. Napoleon Bonaparte's brief invasion introduced modern European ideas and technologies to Egypt. British protectorate. Following the Anglo Egyptian War, Egypt came under British control, which lasted until the 1952 revolution. The Free Officers Movement, led by Gamal Abdel Nasser, overthrew the monarchy, leading to the establishment of the Republic of Egypt. Suez Crisis. Nasser's nationalization of the Suez Canal led to a military intervention by Britain, France, and Israel, which was eventually resolved through international diplomacy. Nationalization of the Suez Canal led to a military intervention by Britain, France, and Israel, which was eventually resolved through international diplomacy. The Arab Spring protests led to ousting of President Hosni Mubarak, marking a significant shift in Egyptian politics. Egypt was declared malaria free by the World Health Organization, a significant public health achievement. Hmm. Settlement of the Nile Valley, unification of Upper and Lower Egypt, King Menes, also known as. What are the major events? What were the major events during the rule of King Menes? Let's see. Also known as Narmer or Meni, is a legendary figure in ancient Egyptian history, credited with significant events that shaped the early civilization of Egypt. Traditionally recognized as the Pharaoh. I don't know how to say the name right, but let's say Pharaoh. It is believed that the king of Upper Egypt led his forces into Lower Egypt. The king was Menes. He seized control of Lower Egypt. Menes succeeded in bringing. Okay, this is cool. King Menes is traditionally recognized as the pharaoh who unified Upper and Lower Egypt around 3150 BCE, creating the first centralized monarchy in Egypt. Unification is symbolized by the Narmer palette, which depicts him wearing the crowns of both regions. Hmm. Establishment of Memphis is credited with the founding the city of Memphis, which became the capital of the unified Egypt. The city was strategically located near the mouth of the Nile in Lower Egypt, serving as a political and cultural center. Military campaigns. Menes led military expeditions throughout Lower Egypt to quell dissenting leadership and expand Egyptian territory. He also ventured into neighboring regions like Canaan and Nubia, extending Egypt's influence. Is noted for developing the art of writing, which was crucial for recording history, literature, and administrative records. His reign saw an increase in urbanization as people moved from subsistence farming into cities, facilitated by his support for building projects that improved housing and irrigation. Formalized religious practices and beliefs. integrating the worship of gods from both Upper and Lower Egypt, luxury and hobbies. His reign was marked by a period of prosperity where Egyptians developed hobbies like carving, sculpting, sports, brewing beer. Wow, they were doing everything back then, reflecting a shift towards a more luxurious lifestyle. According to legend, he was killed by a hippopotamus after 62 years of his rule. His tomb is believed to be located in el Kab near Abydos. He was succeeded by his son Hor Aha, who continued the expansion and development of Egypt. Menes is considered the founder of the first dynasty of Egypt, beginning of a new era in Egyptian history. Let's make sure we are in do not disturb mode. Okay. Symbolic figure. Menes' unification of Egypt and his subsequent achievements made him a legendary figure, often compared to Romulus in ancient Rome, symbolizing the founding of the great civilization. Yeah, they didn't talk a lot about what led to Upper and Lower Egypt. Invention of writing, end of the Old Kingdom, Middle Kingdom, Middle Kingdom, resurgence of significant cultural and architectural achievements, invasions by Hyksos, New Kingdom, known for its military expansion, Third Intermediate, marked by a decline of central authority, with Egypt being ruled by various foreign dynasties, including Nubians, and Assyrians. Late period, experienced Persian rule followed by a brief period of independence under the Side kings before being conquered by Alexander the Great. Conquest, beginning of the Hellenistic period in Egypt, Ptolemaic dynasty, Roman conquest. Who are hmm, I don't know where to start this from. Okay, let's see. Hmm. This is it. That the story is very, very rich, and there are too many things happening. So maybe we gotta go into everything. Let's see. I'm actually curious. What was happening? What are the major events in the history of Egypt between 7000 to 3000 BCE? Hmm. Let's see. They basically totally skipped this period, so let's see if we have something interesting over here. Several pivotal events that laid the foundation of one of the world's earliest and most enduring civilization. First settlers inhabited around 7000 BC, marking the beginning of human settlement. Hmm. Hmm. Marking the beginning of human settlement in the region, these early settlers engaged in farming, which led to the development of early cities and government structures. Organized farming by 5000 BC, organized farming had begun in Egypt, leading to a more stable food supply, and the growth of population centers. Burial practices. Around 6000 BCE, the burial of the dead became a common practice. The earliest Egyptian mastabas being dug at Saqqara. Invention of writing, significant cultural advancement, recording history, literature, and administrative records. King Menes, traditionally credited with unifying Upper and Lower Egypt around 3100 BC, marking the beginning of early dynastic period. Memphis was established, symbolizing the political and cultural center. Dynasties 1 to 2 saw the establishment of first two dynasties with Menes as the first pharaoh. The strong central government supported the work of scribes, sculptors, and other artists, fostering new artistic methods. The conventions of three-dimensional art was established, along with a special royal iconography to express ideologies of kingship. Hmm. The scale of figures in artwork symbolize status and symbolic positions of seated and standing figures were set. Trade with Syria. Trade was already established between Syria and Egypt, indicating early economic interactions. Transition from a nomadic lifestyle to settled agriculture, the development of writing, the unification of country, and the establishment of central government, leading to the construction of monumental architecture, the development of complex religious practices, and the creation of a rich cultural heritage that would influence the world for millennia. Rich cultural heritage. What are the significant things, events in Egypt that led to a rich cultural heritage that would influence the world for millennia? Let's see. The unification of Upper and Lower Egypt by King Menes marked the beginning of centralized monarchy, setting the stage of the development of a unified culture and establishment of Memphis as the capital. Hieroglyphics. Invention of hieroglyphic script around 3200 BC allowed for the recording of history, literature, and administrative record. Entertainment culture. During the Middle Kingdom, began writing stories for entertainment, showcasing a cultural shift towards leisure and artistic expression. Architecture and engineering achievements. Construction of the pyramids, particularly during the Old Kingdom, demonstrated Egypt's engineering prowess and left a lasting architectural legacy. Mamluk architecture saw the construction of monumental religious and funerary complexes, contributing significantly to Cairo's medieval heritage. Trade routes. Strategic location made it a center for trade routes to and from Western Asia, the Mediterranean, and Central Africa, facilitating cultural exchange and spread of ideas. Various periods of foreign rule, including the Persian, Greeks, Romans, and Arabs, introduced new cultural elements that blended with Egyptian traditions. Hmm. New Kingdom saw the rise of Atonism, an early form of monotheism or monolatry under Pharaoh Akhenaten. influencing religious thought, influencing religious thought. Christianity and Islam, spread of Christianity in the 4th century CE and Islam in the 7th century CE led to the blending of indigenous beliefs with these new faiths, creating unique religious practices and architectural styles. The early dynastic period established conventions in three-dimensional art, royal iconography, and symbolic representation, which became hallmarks of Egyptian art. Egypt's culture remained distinctively Egyptian in its religion, art, language, and custom, influencing other cultures through its stability and longevity. Hmm. Muhammad Ali's reforms. Muhammad Ali Pasha initiated modernization efforts, including architectural reforms that initially emulated Ottoman trends but later sought to revive indigenous styles. Architects like Hassan Fathi adapted indigenous vernacular architecture to modern needs, pushing back against Western architectural dominance. Hmm. Cultural stability. This is interesting. Egypt's culture, like even though they were ruled by, they had foreign invasions, Greeks, Romans, Arabs, Persians, the culture remained distinctively Egyptian in its religion, arts, language, and customs, influencing other cultures through its stability and longevity. Hmm. Let's see what we get for this. Who are the specific figures in Egypt's history who contribute to the unique Egyptian culture we know of today? Numerous figures throughout its history, each contributing a unique phase to development of its art, architecture, and political landscape. Djoser, known for commissioning the Step Pyramid at Saqqara, Djoser's reign marked a significant milestone in Egyptian architecture, showcasing the transition from mastaba to pyramid structures. Hmm. Hmm. Known for commissioning the Step Pyramid at Saqqara, Djoser's reign marked a significant milestone in Egyptian architecture, showcasing the transition from mastaba tombs to pyramid structures. Khufu, builder of the Great Pyramid of Giza, Khufu's architectural legacy is one of the most enduring symbols of ancient Egyptian civilization. Khufu, his reign from 2589 to 2566. Wow. Hmm. We're talking of almost 9,000 years of history. And Khufu, 9,000 years of history. And Khufu made something, the Great Pyramid of Giza, between like 4,000 years ago. And that still exists. It is it is today how we know Egypt for, which is crazy, which is crazy. Hatshepsut reigned 20 years. First female pharaoh, established trade routes, led expeditions to Punt, and built one of the most beautiful temples in Luxor. Her reign was marked by peace and prosperity, contributing to Egypt's cultural and economic growth. Thutmose III, 25, known for as the Napoleon of Egypt, military genius whose campaigns expanded Egypt's influence and brought wealth to the kingdom, fostering cultural exchange. Mm, we are going backwards. So after Hatshepsut, we had Thutmose. So she brought peace and prosperity. He brought wealth. Khufu was 100 years ago. Then we have Amenhotep III. Reign was characterized by cultural and diplomatic achievements with a focus on art and architecture rather than military conquest. And right after that, we have Ak- Akhenaten, attempted a religious revolution by promoting the worship of Aten, the sun disk. The sun disk over traditional polytheism. His reign, along with his wife Nefertiti, introduced new artistic styles and religious practices. Nefertiti. I've heard this name before. Hmm. Tutankhamun. Although his rule was short, the discovery of his tomb in the 20th century has made him one of the most famous pharaohs, contributing to the global fascination with ancient Egypt. Tutankhamun, Ramses II, known for his extensive building projects, Ramses II left a lasting architectural legacy, including the Abu Simbel temples. His long reign and numerous children also had a significant impact on Egyptian society. Hmm. Cleopatra, reign 51 to 30, the last pharaoh of Egypt. Cleopatra's, and she was Cleopatra 6. Wow. So she's the one who is the most popular one, most popular Cleopatra, the Cleopatra 6. Political acumen and alliances with Roman leaders like Julius Caesar and Mark Antony have made her a legendary figure, influencing perceptions of Egyptian culture through literature and art. Hmm. Right, Nefertiti, yes. Akhenaten's wife Nefertiti was a powerful figure in her own right, known for her beauty and her role in the religious revolution. Her famous bust is one of the most iconic works of ancient Egyptian art. I'm guessing that's this Nefertiti. Let's see if we can get more details. Yes, Queen Nefertiti, one of the most famous women in ancient Egypt. Interesting. Wow. So this was made. Nefertiti was wife of Akhenaten, which is 1351. So we are again talking almost 3500 years ago. And this art piece is great. It looks like a human, really well made. Wow. The most famous woman. Known for her beauty and her role in the religious revolution, her famous bust is one of the most iconic works of ancient Egyptian art. Ra. The sun god Ra was central to Egyptian mythology and religion, influencing art, architecture, and the concept of kingship. Horus, the god of the sky. Horus was worshipped from the beginning to the end of ancient Egyptian history, with a symbol, the eye of Horus becoming a protective amulet. Oh, okay. So maybe the eye that we wear is the eye of Horus. Hmm. Modern influences. Mahmoud Mokhtar, sculptor whose work like Hunger critique the social and political status quo, contributing to the development of modern Egyptian art. Abdel Hadi Al-Ghazar, known for his painting The Charter, which became an icon of the 52 revolution, political and social changes in Egypt. Basim Youssef, contemporary figure, his satirical TV show El Barnameg has had a significant impact on Egyptian media and political discourse, showcasing the role of humor and critique in modern Egyptian culture. I am interested in Tutankhamun. Tell me all about Tutankhamun and discovery of his tomb. Let's see. Let's see what do we get. The Boy King and his tomb, also known as King Tut, was an ancient Egyptian pharaoh who ruled from approximately 30 to 23 during the late 18th dynasty. He ascended to the throne at the tender age of 9. So between he was there for almost, wow, we are counting back. So 31, 7, 8, 9 years. He ascended to the throne at the tender age of 9, following the reigns of his predecessor Smen Smenkhare and Neferuaten. Tutankhamun married his half sister Ankhesepatin, who later changed her name to Ankhesenamun, and they had two daughters, both of whom died in infancy. His reign was marked by significant religious and cultural changes. Predecessor Akhenaten had attempted to shift Egypt's religious practices towards the worship of a single god, the sun disk, Aten. However, Tutankhamun, under the guidance of his advisors, reversed these changes. He restored the traditional polytheistic form of ancient Egyptian religion, undoing the Amarna period's religious reforms. This restoration was documented on the Restoration Stela, which highlighted the rebuilding of temples and the reinstatement of the priesthood. Restoration of temples. Tutankhamun issued decrees to restore the temple's images, personnel, and privileges of the old gods, particularly Amun, whose cult had been severely damaged during Akhenaten's rule. Both Tutankhamun and his queen changed their names to reflect the return to traditional worship. Hmm. So his name would have been Tutankhaten, but he changed his name to Tutankhamun. Names to reflect the return to traditional worship, replacing the Aten suffix with Amun. Military campaigns. His reign was not devoid of military activity. He engaged in battles and Nubians and Asiatics, both of which were recorded as victories for Egypt. Restored diplomatic relations with other kingdoms, particularly the Mitanni, were successful as evidenced by the gifts found in his tomb. Let's see. Wow. Wow. This is so cool. Wow. They really know. They really knew how to preserve things. This is really cool. Particularly the Mitanni were successful as evidenced by the gifts found in his tomb. Tutankhamun died unexpectedly at around 19 years old. His death has been attributed to various causes, including malaria and degenerative bone disease. He was buried in a small tomb in the Valley of the Kings, which was hastily converted for his use. What would you like to convert from? Whoa, 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 whoa. What happened to you? Hastily converted for his use, his intended sepulture was likely taken over by his successor I. His intended sepulcher. Discovery of the tomb. The tomb of Tutankhamun KV62 was discovered on November 4, 1922. Wow. The tomb of Tutankhamun KV62 was discovered on November 4, 1922 by British archaeologist Howard Carter and his team including local Egyptian workers. This discovery was a monumental event in archaeology. A monumental event in archaeology. The tomb was found in the Valley of the Kings near Luxor, Egypt. Condition: unlike most pharaoh tombs, Tutankhamun's was largely intact, providing an unparalleled insight into royal funerary practices. This is crazy. Largely intact? Wow. Providing an unparalleled insight into royal funerary practices, art, and craftsmanship of the New Kingdom period. Tomb contain over 5,000 artifacts, including gold-covered chariots, alabaster vessels, inlaid furniture, jewelry, and the famous solid gold mask that adorned Tutankhamun's mummy. Wow. Gold-covered chariots, alabaster vessels, inlaid furniture, jewelry, and the famous solid gold mask that adorned Tutankhamun's mummy was a meticulous process. Photographic documentation. Harry Burton, a British archaeological photographer, documented every detail of the excavation, capturing over 1,400 black and white images. Tomb's clearance took 10 years due to the sheer volume of artifacts and the need for careful preservation. Wow. Wow. Tomb's clearance took 10 years? 10 years? The discovery sparked global fascination, leading to widespread media coverage of the phenomenon known as Egyptomania, influencing design, fashion, and popular culture. And this was happening in 1922, which was, I'm guessing, relatively a peaceful period because that was between World War One and World War Two. Tomb discovery had a profound impact on 20th century culture. Artifacts inspired Art Deco, an Egyptian style design in architecture, furnishings, and fashion. He became a cultural icon, influencing movies, music, and even political symbols. Contents provided invaluable information about ancient Egyptian burial practices, art, and daily life. Hmm. Most significant artifacts found in Tutankhamun's tomb. Howard Carter, Golden Death Mask. Perhaps the most iconic artifact, the Death Mask of Tutankhamun, is made of two sheets of gold adorned with semi precious stones and glass paste. Wow, wow, wow. Throne of King Tutankhamun. Wow. Middle coffin. Golden cobra. Figure of the king on a boat. Miniature coffin ensemble. Wow. Perhaps the most iconic artifact, the death mask of Tutankhamun, is made of two sheets of gold adorned with semi-precious stones and glass base. Depicts the pharaoh with a false beard, a broad collar, and a nemes headdress, symbolizing his royal power and divine status. Become a symbol of ancient Egypt, representing the idealized face of the pharaoh and his journey to the afterlife. He was buried in with three coffins. The outer two were made of wood, decorated with semi-precious stones like turquoise and lapis lazuli, while the innermost coffin was crafted from 110.4 kilos of solid gold, adorned with inlaid stones and inscriptions. While the innermost coffin was crafted from 110.4 kilos of solid gold, adorned with inlaid stones and inscriptions. These coffins, collectively weighing around 1.25 tons, showcase the wealth and craftsmanship of ancient Egypt, providing a glimpse into the opulence of royal burials. Crazy, crazy. Throne made of ebony and wood, covered in gold, silver, semi precious stones, and glass. Tutankhamun's throne depicts the royal couple, with Queen anointing the king. The throne, described as one of the most beautiful objects of art ever discovered, reflects the artistic and cultural achievements of the New Kingdom period. The golden sandals were found among his personal possessions. The soles depict the nine traditional enemies of Egypt, symbolizing the pharaoh's dominance over them. Significance: belief that even in the afterlife he would walk over his enemies. Breastplate: colorful breastplate with scarab shaped amulet at its center, symbolizing resurrection or rebirth. Amulets were common in ancient Egypt, and this breastplate reflects the religious beliefs and the importance of protective symbols in the afterlife. Contains six chariots, some of which were gold covered, showcasing the military prowess and wealth of the pharaoh. These chariots provide insight into the military technology and the pharaoh's role as a warrior king. Two trumpets, one made of silver and the other of bronze, were found. Religious ceremonies or military parades reflecting the cultural and ceremonial aspects. Canopic jars. Hmm. Jars held the remains of internal organs removed during mummification. Each jar was topped with the head of a protective deity. Elaborate mummification process and the religious beliefs surrounding the preservation of the body for the afterlife. Several board games, including Senet, were found. Games were part of the pharaoh's afterlife provisions. These games reflect the leisure activities of the time and the belief that pharaoh would need entertainment in the afterlife. Ivory covered box. A wooden box covered with ivory featuring elaborate paintings with motifs that are difficult to interpret. Artifacts often common with various deities, including Osiris, Anubis, and Hathor, provide insight into religious beliefs, the pharaoh's divine status, and the artistic conventions of the time. Wow, wow, wow. Where are all these artifacts located today? Let's see. Fueling global fascination. Cairo, Amarna. KV-23, Valley of the Kings. It's it's really crazy. This is really crazy. Tutankhamun. Egyptian Museum, Cairo. Majority of artifacts are housed in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. This includes over 220 artifacts such as the famous Golden Mosque, the gilded sarcophagus, and the throne. These artifacts are said to be transferred to the Grand Egyptian Museum in Giza, where they will be displayed over 7,000 square meters, significantly expanding from their previous location in the Egyptian Museum. The GEM, Grand Egyptian Museum, will feature over 50,000 artifacts, including the full collection of King Tutankhamun's treasures. This will be the first time the entire set of 5398 items will be presented to the public. Hmm. Some artifacts are also on display at the Luxor Museum. Several international exhibitions, treasures, the golden hereafter, in the golden age of pharaohs, the golden king and the great pharaohs. Artifacts themselves are considered property of the Egyptian government and are normally kept in Egypt. Over 1,000 perfect replicas of his tomb artifacts are on display in exhibition in Washington, D.C., offering an education experience when originals are largely inaccessible. Really cool. What happened to the mummy of Tutankhamun? Let's see. Has undergone several significant events. Discovery. Revealing the mummy in a state of preservation that was unprecedented for a royal mummy of that era. Unprecedented. Wow. 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 A century after the tomb of Tutankhamun was discovered, archaeologists continue to unlock ancient Egypt's mystery. A small team is still making new finds in ancient Egypt, digging layer by layer at the Saqqara site in Giza, moving earth one bucket at a time. Archaeologists have found a giant trove of ancient coffins and mummies, along with ceramic amulets believed to have been used in burial rituals, and thick papyrus documents. Egyptologist, wow. If you're an archaeologist that specifies in Egypt, you are called an Egyptologist. Egypt's former state minister for antiquities. Site contained countless other artifacts relating to another pharaoh, King Teti, and his followers who worship him as God for 1,000 years after his death. Closest generals and advisors were also at the site, which sits about 20 miles south of the North African nation's capital. I really believe that this year and next year, the site is going to be the most important site in Egypt. Network of underground rooms hidden 65 feet beneath the oldest pyramids in Egypt. Hmm. I always say that we found until only 30% of our monuments. I always say that we found until now only 30% of our monuments are still there. 70% are buried underneath the ground. A 3,000-year-old coffin is opened in a burial chamber. A 3,000-year-old coffin. Teti was worshipped as a god in the New Kingdom and everyone wanted to be buried alongside him. Close to 300 coffins in the vicinity of his pyramid this year, most of them in good condition. Teti was the first king of the sixth dynasty of ancient Egypt. People continued to be buried near him for more than 1,000 years later because they wanted his protection. Hmm. After the mummies are exhumed from the site, archaeologists x ray them to determine their ages at death and diseases, any diseases they might have carried in their lifetime, and what might have killed them. Wow. Wow. Teams then carry out a process of careful conservation and begin to record and archive newly uncovered antiquities. Hmm. However, the Grand Egyptian Museum in Giza has stalled numerous times because of political instability and lack of government funding, according to the museum's website. This is interesting. You should be funding the museum because that will bring in more revenue. Numerous objects associated with Tutankhamun are also said to be displayed here. Although the Boy King's famous death mask and sarcophagus are still on display at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. Hmm. Believed to have suffered from numerous illnesses and disabilities, including a flat foot, circulatory problems, and malaria. Tomb was almost completely intact when Carter discovered it. Inside, he found that there were four big shrines, and he took them out by ropes. He found the golden coffins, three coffins. Was a golden dagger to protect Tutankhamun in the afterlife, an ornate throne engraved with the love story of his mother and father. In ancient Egypt, gold was like dust. Who could not quantify how much this heritage was worth to modern Egyptians. As an archaeologist, if you gave me the whole money of the United States and England, I would say no. This heritage belongs to everyone. Hmm. This is crazy. This is crazy. Okay, let's see. That was unprecedented for a royal mummy of that era. Unwrapping. In 925, the mummy was unwrapped by Carter and Dr. Douglas Jerry. The process was challenging due to the sticky, sacred oils and raisins that had coated the mummy, causing damage to the body. Sticky, sacred oils and resin. that had coated the mummy, causing damage to the body. The unwrapping revealed that the mummy was in a poor condition with numerous cracks and a grayish color. Damage. The mummy suffered further damage during the unwrapping process, with parts of the body being removed or broken off. The body was not rewrapped or even partially covered after this examination, leaving it exposed. Theft. Whoa. Sometime after the mummy was reinterred in 926, there was a break in, and objects Carter had left in place were stolen. The body was subsequently rewrapped, suggesting local officials may have discovered the break in and restored the mummy without reporting it. Hmm. Sometime after the mummy was reinterred in 1926, there was a break in, and objects Carter had left in place were stolen. The body was subsequently rewrapped, suggesting local officials may have discovered the break in and restored the mummy without reporting it. CT scan. In 2005, Tutankhamun's mummy was subjected to CT scans, revealing that he did not die from a blow to the head as previously thought. Wow, right. In 2005, we finally have the technology of CT scan. Evidence suggested he suffered from a bone disease, malaria, and possibly leg fracture that could have led to his death. Was found to have been frail with clubfoot, a cleft palate, and a severe bone disease. He also had multiple infections with the malaria parasite, which likely weakened his immune system, are still on display in his tomb in the Valley of Kings. However, due to the damage inflicted by flooding and heavy tourist traffic, a replica of the burial chamber has been constructed nearby to reduce the pressure on the original tomb. To reduce the pressure on the original tomb. Mummy is now protected by a sheet of glass placed over the top by of the sarcophagus, allowing visitors to view the coffin. Wow, really cool. All right, that's the stream. Thank you.